Why do people use and abuse drugs? In the beginning, for a lot of people, when they are in their rebellious years as teenagers, it's just a form of rebelliousness or defiance. And sometimes when they're exposed to it by older kids, there could be some peer pressure. And peer pressure really is not so much of your own friends telling you to do something. It can also be the older kids are doing it, and that is a lot of pressure because people want to be accepted. They don't want to be isolated or ostracized from their social group. And I know for me, when there were girls present, that I didn't want to stand out, and so there was an enormous amount of peer pressure in this realm. So that's in the beginning. Kids can be, people can be bored. It's not necessarily kids too. Adults can start up with drugs too. It could be out of boredom. They might find it a recreational thing, that they have a form of escape and they can shut the inner voice down in their mind. So this is, I'm going to progress now to the more serious causes. So as an escape mechanism, that can be a little more dangerous now, that a person may have learned that the drug of choice can help shut things down and allay their anxieties and fears. Cannabis and hash are good at this in the beginning stages because it's fun, but with time, most people as they grow older, and particularly when they hit their 30s, they become more anxious now, so it loses its appeal, they become anxiety ridden, and it's just a normal part of aging in the physiological changes that occur in the brain with the neurochemistry, but people become anxious. So then they can still keep using, though, or they can switch to another drug because they've now learned that they want a form of escapism. As a crutch now is the next stage in dealing with stresses. A person can rely on their drug of choice or alcohol as a form of coping with stress. And this is a lot more serious now because they may become dependent, and so they rely on their drug of choice or alcohol as a form of self-medication to deal with life stresses. So instead of a reward at the end of the week, it can end up becoming a coping mechanism, and this is where it's more dangerous. Finally, in the end stages, a person could continue using drugs or alcohol because they want to stem the onset of withdrawal. So at this point, they become tolerant and dependent. So they've had escalating doses of their drug of choice, and if they stop taking this drug of choice, they start feeling sick, and that's otherwise known as dope sickness or withdrawal. And that is a very compelling thing for a person to continue using because they just simply don't want to feel sick. There's a quick way to fix that, and that's by using again. This is of particular interest with the opioid crisis because people become trapped with the drug of choice now. They will go through withdrawal if they stop taking it, and it makes it very hard for them to function. So they are stuck in a situation where they become a slave to the drug, that if they don't take it, they're going to start feeling sick, and it's very hard to function and keep up your job or school studies when you're feeling like this. So that's the end stage when a person uses to avoid going through withdrawal, and it's scary because in this situation people can go to desperate lengths to prevent the withdrawals, and this is when people start manipulating others. They can start stealing, they burn bridges with families and friends, they can rob, they can move into prostitution, and all sorts of apparently crazy things that people do. But it's important to understand that these are sick people. They just simply want to feel better, as opposed to thinking they have got a moral failing or that these are bad people. It's much easier to understand that they're feeling sick and they want to avoid the sickness, and they become so desperate they'll go to desperate measures to avoid feeling ill. So to summarize, why people use drugs, it can vary on a massive spectrum here, but in the beginning it can be a form of rebelliousness or defiance, boredom, there could be a way of fitting in with peer pressures. Then later on people could start depending on it as a way of shutting the inner voice down, as a way of relaxation, and then this can start progressing to using it as a crutch or as a reward for themselves by working a busy week, for example, or working a busy day. And finally, if a person is now becoming dependent on the drug of choice, for example the opioids, they will go into withdrawal, and if they don't take it, they will continue to feel sick, so they continue to use to help avoid going through withdrawal. And that explains the whole spectrum of why people use drugs.
If you or a loved one are looking for help with substance abuse, call our 24/7 helpline at 1-800-615-1067. A caring addiction advisor is awaiting your call.